You have probably wondered how someone so obsessed with status could end up with absolutely nothing. There is a strange, silent pattern that happens to these toxic individuals as the years roll on, dragging them into a terrifying financial curse. If you want to understand why they are destined to face old age entirely poor and completely alone, you need to hear this truth. It always starts with the illusion of grand success. When you first met them, they likely projected an image of absolute wealth and untouchable power. They drove the right cars, wore the right clothes, and spoke as if they owned the world. But behind those closed doors, the reality was built on a foundation of unpaid bills, hidden debts, and deep, terrifying insecurities. You see, for the narcissist, money is never just a tool for survival or security. To them, currency is nothing more than a dangerous weapon used to manipulate how the world perceives them. They will gladly drain their bank accounts to zero if it means they can buy your admiration for just one more day. It is an exhausting performance, and it costs them everything they have. Think about the times they made you feel small over financial decisions. They probably controlled the shared accounts, hiding the truth of their reckless spending while criticizing your every purchase. This was never about financial responsibility. It was a desperate attempt to keep you financially dependent, ensuring you could never escape their carefully crafted, chaotic trap. But that fragile house of cards can only stand for so long. As they age, the charm they used to con people into lending them money begins to fade away. The bridges they burned in their youth leave them stranded, isolated from anyone who might genuinely help. They start to realize that their superficial investments in fake prestige yield absolutely zero emotional or real returns. This is the tragic irony of their existence. They spend their entire lives chasing the appearance of wealth, completely ignoring the hard work required to actually maintain it. They believe they are inherently entitled to luxury simply because they exist. When the universe refuses to hand them unearned riches, they blame everyone else for their mounting, inescapable failures. I know you have seen the cracks in their facade. You witnessed the panicked excuses when the credit cards were declined or the sudden rage when someone dared to question their financial logic. Deep down, they know they are living a lie, but their ego violently prevents them from admitting defeat. They would rather go completely bankrupt than confess they made a single mistake. And that brings us to the devastating core of their reality. True wealth is not just about having numbers in a bank account, it is about building stable, trusting relationships over time. Because they treat people like disposable objects, they destroy the very networks that could sustain them during hard times. They strip mine their own futures just to feed their present egos. You might be feeling a sense of guilt right now, wondering if you could have somehow saved them from their own reckless destruction. Please, hear me clearly. You could not fix their broken relationship with reality. Their financial ruin is a direct reflection of their emotional emptiness. Every missing dollar represents a lie they told themselves, and a boundary they shattered. As we peel back these dark psychological layers, you will begin to see exactly how their curse unfolds. It is a slow, agonizing descent into poverty and loneliness, engineered entirely by their own hands. Let us look closer at the mental chaos driving this self-sabotage, so you can finally release any lingering guilt and understand the brutal justice of their inevitable fate. To truly understand their financial collapse, we have to look at the gaping black hole inside their minds. A normal person views financial stability as a comforting safety net for the future. The narcissist views money as a temporary painkiller for their chronic, agonizing feelings of inadequacy. They spend impulsively to numb the terrifying reality that they are fundamentally empty. Notice how they never seem to plan for long-term survival. Their entire existence is trapped in the immediate present, desperately seeking the next hit of validation. When they buy that luxury item they cannot afford, they are not buying an object. They are buying a fleeting moment of superiority. But like any addiction, the high fades quickly, leaving them broke and desperate again. This reckless behavior is rooted in their profound lack of object constancy. Because they cannot maintain a consistent sense of self-worth, they rely entirely on external props to define who they are. If they do not possess the newest, the shiniest, or the most expensive items, they feel as though they cease to exist. Their spending is a frantic fight against their own invisibility. You have likely been the victim of their financial abuse, forced to clean up the terrible messes they leave behind. They use your credit, drain your savings, and manipulate your generosity without a shred of genuine remorse. In their distorted reality, they believe your money actually belongs to them. They see you not as a human partner, but as an endless, exploitable resource. One of the most glaring symptoms of their disorder is their absolute refusal to delay gratification. Working hard, saving diligently, and waiting patiently are concepts that insult their fragile egos. They genuinely believe they are too special to struggle like ordinary people. They expect sudden windfalls, always chasing risky schemes instead of building honest, lasting security. When these foolish schemes inevitably crash, the blame shifting becomes incredibly vicious. It is never their fault that the investment failed or the business went under. They will blame the economy, their business partners, or even you for not supporting them enough. Their psychological defense mechanisms rewrite history to protect their delusion of supreme financial brilliance. This chronic lack of accountability guarantees that they will never learn from their terrible financial mistakes. A healthy person experiences failure, feels the pain of the loss, and adjusts their future behavior accordingly. The narcissist simply blocks out the failure, resets their false narrative, and repeats the exact same disastrous cycle with completely new victims. As the years go by, the mental gymnastics required to maintain this delusion become utterly exhausting. They spend more energy hiding their debts and faking their success than they would have spent simply earning an honest living. It is a psychological prison of their own making. The walls of unpaid bills and broken promises slowly close in, suffocating their grand illusions. What makes this so devastating is how easily it could have been avoided. If they possessed even a tiny fraction of humility or self-awareness, they could have built a stable, quiet life. But humility feels like death to their fragile self-image. They would rather drive a luxury car straight off a financial cliff than be seen riding a public bus like the rest of humanity. You watch this tragedy play out, day after day, helpless to stop the bleeding. You tried to reason with them, showing them budgets and practical realities, but they looked at you with absolute contempt. To them, your sensible advice was an intolerable insult to their grandiosity. Now, as they age, the undeniable consequences of that arrogant contempt are finally arriving. There always comes a definitive turning point in the timeline of their financial curse. It usually happens when their youth and physical charm can no longer open the doors they once did. The people they used to manipulate for loans or favors have either caught on to the scam or walked away completely. Suddenly, the well of endless, unearned resources runs completely bone dry. At this critical juncture, the panic sets in, though they will try desperately to hide it. You can see it in the frenzied way they scramble for new supply, trying to hook younger, more naive victims to fund their lifestyle. But their tactics are outdated, and their energy is visibly depleting. The mask is slipping, revealing the terrified, empty shell hiding underneath. This is the moment their deeply hidden shame begins to rot them from the inside out. They look around and realize that their peers have paid off mortgages, built retirement funds, and secured comfortable futures. The narcissist has absolutely nothing to show for their life but a mountain of debt and a trail of destroyed relationships. The reality check is incredibly brutal. Instead of changing course, their pathological envy takes total control of their behavior. They become bitterly resentful of anyone who has achieved the genuine stability they lack. They will viciously mock your financial caution, trying to drag you down to their level of miserable insecurity. If they cannot have a peaceful, secure future, they want to ensure nobody else does either. Watch closely as the legal and financial consequences finally begin to catch up with their lies. The tax agencies, the creditors, and the angry former partners all arrive to collect what is rightfully owed. The narcissist can no longer charm their way out of the paperwork or gaslight a bank statement. The cold, hard numbers tell the absolute truth they have spent decades denying. Their reaction to this collapse is a horrifying display of raw, unfiltered narcissistic injury. They may spiral into severe rage, lashing out at the very people who are still trying to offer them shelter. Or they might adopt a pathetic victim mentality, crying about how the world has treated them so unfairly. Either way, they completely refuse to take any genuine responsibility. You might remember the moment you finally decided you could no longer fund their madness. When you cut off the money supply, you witnessed a terrifying shift in their entire personality. The warm, charming facade instantly vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating monster who viewed you entirely as an enemy. That was the exact moment you saw their true, terrifying nature. This turning point marks the beginning of their permanent, unchangeable isolation. As their financial resources evaporate, so do their shallow, fair-weather friends. The people who only hung around for the free drinks and the expensive dinners disappear without a trace. The narcissist is left sitting alone in a shrinking world, surrounded by the heavy silence of their own ruin. It is incredibly difficult to watch someone destroy their own life with such stubborn determination. Even after all the pain they caused you, a part of your empathetic soul probably pitied their pathetic decline. But you must understand that their financial starvation is a necessary, unavoidable consequence. They are simply reaping the barren harvest of the toxic seeds they planted. They crossed the invisible point of no return the day they decided that their ego was more important than their survival. There is no magical rescue coming to save them from this self-inflicted disaster. The turning point has passed, and gravity is finally pulling their fragile empire down into the dirt. Now, we must examine the dark reality of their final, inevitable collapse. When the final collapse arrives in their old age, it is a stark and terrifying picture of ultimate desolation. The luxury items they once paraded around have either been sold off or repossessed by the bank. They are forced to live in a reality that directly contradicts the grandiose image they fought so desperately to protect. The poverty they experience is both financial and of the soul. Without money to buy new admirers, their charm offensive becomes entirely useless. No one is interested in the arrogant, demanding stories of an elderly person who has absolutely nothing to offer in return. Their attempts to manipulate people now just look incredibly sad and remarkably pathetic. The invisible power they once wielded over others has completely evaporated into thin air. Their physical aging process makes this financial ruin exponentially more unbearable. The narcissist has always relied heavily on their looks and vitality to distract people from their empty character. As their body fails, they desperately need a secure environment to rest, but their past decisions have left them vulnerable. They face their declining health in terrifying instability. The loneliness they experience now is profound, and it is entirely of their own making. They alienated their children, betrayed their loyal partners, and used up their trusting relatives decades ago. When they pick up the phone to call for help, they hear nothing but the cold dial tone of shattered boundaries. They pushed everyone away, and now, they must sit in that dreadful empty room. They will spend their final years consumed by a toxic, festering bitterness toward the entire world. They will sit alone, muttering about how they were cheated out of their rightful fortune and stolen from by jealous enemies. It is a miserable, paranoid existence, fueled by delusions they refuse to surrender. They become prisoners trapped inside the dark, decaying walls of their own ego. Notice how they never reach out to offer genuine apologies, even when staring death in the face. A normal person would try to make amends, hoping to find some peace and connection before the end. But the aging narcissist would rather die completely alone than admit they were ever wrong about anything. Their pride remains completely intact, even as they starve for basic human affection. This is the ultimate curse of their disorder. They receive exactly what they gave to the world. They treated human beings as disposable transactions, and so life eventually treats them as a forgotten, discarded receipt. The universe balances the scales in a quiet, devastatingly thorough manner. Their emotional bankruptcy finally manifests as a literal, inescapable financial destitution. You must look at their pathetic state and realize how lucky you are to have escaped their toxic web. If you had stayed, they would have happily dragged you down into this exact same miserable abyss. They would have drained your retirement, ruined your credit, and left you sitting next to them in the dark. Your decision to walk away was not just a boundary, it was a desperate rescue mission. Do not let society try to shame you for protecting yourself from their inevitable downfall. People who have never survived narcissistic abuse will tell you to be the bigger person and help them in their old age. But you know the dark truth. Offering them a hand only gives them a fresh opportunity to bite it. You cannot pour your hard-earned security into a bottomless, ungrateful void. Their collapse is now complete, and the stage is entirely empty. The grand performance they spent a lifetime rehearsing has ended with absolutely no applause and no audience left in the seats. It is a chilling reminder that you cannot cheat your way to a meaningful life. The curtain falls, leaving them totally isolated with the horrifying reality of who they truly are. Now, let us turn the focus away from their darkness and bring the light directly back to where it belongs. To you. You survived a financial and emotional hurricane that was designed to completely destroy you. While they are busy reaping the bitter harvest of their deceit, you are standing on the solid ground of reality. You have something they will never, ever possess: genuine authenticity. Your ability to feel empathy, to work honestly, and to build real connections is your greatest wealth. The narcissist looked at these beautiful traits and saw only weaknesses to be brutally exploited. But time has proven them entirely wrong. Those same traits are exactly what allowed you to rebuild your life, your savings, and your precious peace of mind after they tried to steal it all. The healing process requires you to permanently sever any remaining energetic ties to their chaotic existence. You have to stop checking their social media to see if karma has finally caught up with them. Trust me, the karma is already there, eating away at them in the quiet moments when nobody is looking. Their financial ruin is simply the outward manifestation of their internal hell. Forgive yourself for the money you lost while you were desperately trying to love them. Consider that lost money the ultimate tuition fee you had to pay to learn the most valuable lesson of your entire life. You bought your freedom, and even if the price was incredibly high, it was completely worth it. You can always earn more money, but you can never buy back the years they stole from you. Look at how far you have come since the day you finally decided to close your wallet and lock the door. You have learned how to protect your boundaries, how to spot the red flags, and how to value your own hard work. The trauma they inflicted accidentally transformed you into a powerful, financially fiercely independent survivor. They meant to break you, but they only forged you into steel. As you move forward, embrace the quiet, peaceful stability of an honest life well lived. You no longer have to endure the terrifying roller coaster of hidden debts, sudden financial crises, and endless manipulation. You can wake up every single morning knowing that everything you have is truly yours. It is a profound, beautiful freedom that the narcissist will never get to experience. Never again will you allow someone to convince you that financial abuse is just a normal part of love. You understand now that true partners build together, sharing the heavy loads and celebrating the quiet victories as a team. You demand transparency, respect, and shared responsibility in every aspect of your life. The curse they carry will never be allowed to infect your sacred space again. The sad reality is that they will fade into history as a cautionary tale of greed and arrogance. But you will write a completely different ending to your incredible story. You are creating a legacy of resilience, grounded in truth, compassion, and unshakable self-worth. You survived the parasite, and now you are absolutely thriving in the beautiful sunlight of your reclaimed independence. So let them sit alone in their empty, decaying kingdom of lies and unpaid bills. Let them choke on the bitter pride that prevented them from ever experiencing genuine human connection or honest financial stability. You have entirely detached from their sinking ship, and you are finally sailing toward a bright, secure future. The heavy chains of their financial curse have been broken forever. You are no longer their victim, their bank account, or their emotional punching bag. You walked through the absolute darkest fires of their manipulation and emerged with your beautiful soul completely intact. Let them keep their tragic, miserable fate. You have a beautiful life to live. True wealth is peace of mind, and that is the one thing a narcissist can absolutely never steal from you.